As always, we have our MMORPG experts to guide you and me. We have Sir Jaziel.
Hello.
And we have our resident YouTuber at Coffee and RPG, Solomon SK. And there's me, Kevin.
Consider hitting the subscribe button down below, as well as the bell notification right next to it. Thank you.
That's right. It's time to do some daily quests. And so I'll start off with me, Kenneth, and try to make sure we give you some good old adventure from your Trinity Game Masters Arc Age. Yeah, the game I tried one time and then quit because I couldn't get any land. Then they had opened up some servers, had a land rush, couldn't get any land. Well, apparently they're consolidating. They're going from 13 servers to 4, and guess what? It'll be a new land rush because it's not going from like taking servers A, B, and C and merging into C. We're taking A, B, and C merging into D. So there's going to be a land rush again, which is whatever. Okay, I'm just tired of it. Doesn't matter to me. I'm done. Haven't played in a couple of years because of that. That was a fun game. Otherwise, I would have liked to have done the game and had some land and whatever. But oh well. BioWare was in the news because a couple of things. One, EA has said, guess what? You don't need to do a multiplayer element in your next Dragon Age game. What multiplayer thing in Dragon Age? Oh, I see. EA wanted to do that. You don't have to do it now, BioWare. Okay, fine. Then again, I wonder if that was a sop to BioWare, because guess what? They've canceled Anthem Next. Wait, what? Yeah, the one that was to replace Anthem because Anthem sucked so badly, which, by the way, is going kind of a maintenance mode. It's not canceled directly, but Anthem Next, so from a massively OP article, as such, development on Anthem is ceasing, with Anthem Executive Director Christian Daly saying BioWare will work to strengthen the next Dragon Age and Mass Effect titles while continuing to provide quality updates to Star Wars Old Republic. So the article said, well, there's a silver lining, I guess. Our sympathies lie with the 30-person reboot team that will now presumably be shifting to those other projects. So, Dragon Age, which we know about. Mass Effect, which we kind of heard about. And then, SWTOR. Bungie postpones Destiny 2 expansion, The Witch Queen, to 2020 because of COVID. That's correct, as everything is these days. They did say that obviously doing this whole remote type of work is just not working too well with them, and they're going to have to postpone the next one. Gamigo, which of course bought all the Trine Worlds properties, is cleaning house. They have now decided to dump and cancel Defiance and Defiance 2050. So they're gone. There was some other title they already canceled. I never heard about it anyway, so who cared? But yeah, I guess so. Then again, Defiance 2050, when I first started playing it, I'm like, it's the same as Defiance. Same quest, same everything. I'm like, nothing new. Was there a difference in graphics? I don't know, but I'm like, this was stupid, okay? So I played a little bit after I realized the quests were no different. I quit again. So there you go. Those are my little top picks for the week. So we're now going to pass it off to Sir Jaziel.
All right, so this week we've got a little more news on the Flames of Ambition DLC for the Elder Scrolls Online, which will be dropping on March 8th, 2021. So coming up really fast for those of you interested. And with it, of course, there's going to be a ton of content, new gear, really cool stuff that, from what I've seen, I was actually a little more excited for this than the announcements that were made for World of Warcraft, sadly. But it includes the new Black Drake Villa. This new dungeon, it will be hosting 3 bosses, not just one, so that'll be kind of cool, and implement some new fight mechanics and awesome rewards for conquering it all, of course. From what I've seen, it looks like a whole lot of fun, so I'm getting a little itchy to get back into the game a little faster than what I'd previously thought. I was going to try to hold off till the full expansion came out, but I don't know. I'm starting to feel like I may need to get my pro account back and start playing some more.
Now this is just the expansion to Greymore, right? Next DLC for Greymore. This is not the new
Yes.
expansion that's coming out in June. This is just additional stuff. Okay.
Yeah, this is just kind of a most games will probably call it a major patch, but
Okay.
yeah, it's DLC. So if you've got your Plus account, it's going to be free to you. If you don't, you have to
Mm,
pay a little bit for it extra,
okay.
but you can do that with in-game currency, of course, if you have it.
Good to
Um,
know.
yeah, but it is it looks really cool, and I don't want to give any spoilers out. I know a couple of the websites have gave spoilers what you're going to encounter in the dungeon. But what I will say is that you go in there initially thinking you're just going to go into a little area, retrieve a book, and get out. And yeah, that's not what happens. So, spoiler free. Other than that, it looks like a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to that myself, and hopefully you ESO fans are as well. The next, I will say that there was little news dropped, little extra tidbits that I'm kind of shocked weren't given during BlizzCon Line last week. But World of Warcraft: The Burning Crusade will not be including, as some rumors that were going around saying, even on Reddit, I saw some people saying that it would be included, but it's not. There's no dungeon finder that's going to be implemented. Now, as you remember, there was no dungeon finder back then anyway. So for those no changes people, bonus. Um, we are going to be discussing this a little bit more, I believe. Here in the, I see
Yes.
someone changing notes here, but during the main story quest, so we'll talk more uh, about Dungeon Finder at that point. But I will say I am pretty pleased. But just hang on a few minutes and you'll hear why that is. The third thing for this week is Dungeons and Dragons Online. I know not too many people seem to be playing that these days, but hey, it's celebrating its 15th anniversary tomorrow. Although when you see this video, it'll probably be today or even yesterday. Uh, Hopefully you're not watching this like years later, but it could happen. Um, anyway, on February 28th, so 15 years ago, that's pretty awesome. I do remember when it came out. I was a big, of course, I grew up in the 70s and 80s playing tabletop Dungeons and Dragons. So when the online version came out, I tinkered with it. It was okay. Um, but anyway, it has a new raid for those of you who have purchased the, I'm going to have to remember this, the Fables of Feywild expansion. Um, but this is a very unique thing, and honestly, this even makes me kind of want to download it and try this specific raid out, um, because it sounds really cool. It's not just some humdrum new raid like you would find in Name It, whatever MMO. This is a musical raid, um, and
Wait. Musical?
it's
Like like like
musical.
like Hamilton? Like
Yeah,
Sound of Music kind
yeah,
of a musical?
like two enemies, arch enemies, barding it up and singing to each other
West Side Story?
as you travel through, basically insulting each other
Hmm.
through bardic songs. It's
Interesting.
really cool. When I first heard it, I thought, "Oh, that sounds too great." Although I do like musicals, but um, I didn't think it sounded that great for a raid because that might get old after a while. But uh, it has been leaked on the whole song from both NPCs can be heard on YouTube. If you want to look it up, the raid is named the Dryad and the Demigod, and it's featuring the voices of Cindy Robinson and Scott McNeil. If you don't get excited for that, then you must not know who those two people are, but they are everywhere. Their voices are in places you didn't even realize. Um, Go look them up on IMDb, and if you're a geek, a nerd, you're gonna be impressed because it just keeps you just keep scrolling. It's amazing how much stuff that they've both done. And it like I said, at first I was a little skeptical that this would work, but as I listened to the song and as they have some little snippets on there, what's going to be going on, it looks cool, very original, and I guess they've been. I haven't been keeping up with Dungeons and Dragons online. I'm not going to sit here and lie like I know everything about the game, but um, this definitely perked my ears up for it. Because I just thought it was another one of those maintenance mode games, and apparently this has been something they've been talking about doing for a couple of years, and just couldn't make it work. Couldn't figure out the mechanics of how they wanted it to work, and now they figured it out. And on February 28th, you can experience it yourself. So, from what I've
Huh.
seen and what I've heard, it sounds pretty cool and interesting and different. So,
That's
yeah,
different and interesting. You're right.
yeah,
Like that one show, Cop Rock, right? We try to do
yeah.
musical cops. It's like it was a try. It was a
What
try.
I for those of you who are still a little bit lost, I didn't put this in my notes, but what it's basically going to be is as you travel through the dungeon, as you get to certain points of the dungeon, then you're going to have one of them singing part of the song. And then you'll move on from there and go to another location where, so it's not through the entire thing per se. It's little anchor points where you're going to hear it and get to the end of it. And
Mm.
yeah, like I said, I haven't touched that game. It's probably been 14 years. It probably has because I think I played it like the first year it came out, and then I believe I played it for a couple of hours, like 2 or 3 years after that, because someone said, "Oh, it's even better now. They fixed stuff." And I went back and I was like, I'm too into World of Warcraft at that point. But I may be downloading it to try this
Mm.
dungeon out.
Yeah.
Or raid, excuse me.
Wow, that
Yeah.
was interesting. Yeah, musical. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Solomon, we're up to you now. What do you got for our dailies?
There really isn't a whole lot actually in terms of MMO news. But let's see. Netmarble released Blade and Soul Revolution on the mobile platform, but that's whatever because even though it still might be an MMO, it's still only for the mobile platform. So there's that. There's a new MMORPG that I covered a few days ago. It's called Key to Heaven, but it was made by a single person and it was in development for 16 years because he started it when he was only 10 years old. So there's a demo out right now if you want to give it a try on Steam. I downloaded it. I didn't play it yet, but something like that I would really definitely like to support just because it's a labor of love. And so but yeah, it again to I don't know if I said it, but it is a 2D MMORPG, 2D. So it looks very similar to some
Does look very
games.
2D. Yeah.
So we're talking like early 90s style, like NES days. So don't expect too much out of it. Another game to add to Ken's list of games that Game-ago or Gamago, depending on where you are, is Sunsetting or Taking on Offline is also Twin Saga. There's another one. There's a fourth game, but I can't remember what it is. So
I never heard of Twin Saga. Was that part of the Tryon Worlds purchase, or
I have no
they already
idea.
had that before that? I never heard of it
I
before.
doubt it. I think Twin Saga wasn't from Tryon Worlds.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a fourth one too, but I'm blanking out on what it is. So yeah, lots of salt there. And lastly, I think there's another game that's being developed by Riot Games, the same developer for League of Legends. But their hiring portal is asking or putting feelers out there for people who have MMORPG development experience. So if that's you and you are looking for a job and you want to make the next greatest MMO potentially, maybe, I don't know, definitely head on over to Riot's website and apply. And if you don't, we don't know too much about their next MMORPG other than the fact that it is set in the same universe as League of Legends, and they will be combining elements of MMORPGs and castle defense together somehow, some way. I don't know how. I can't even imagine even what that looks like, but it is an MMORPG, and I'm really excited about that fact. So that's it.
I can't help but think that I remember when League of Legends first came out. I'm like, oh, okay. I think okay. Those who like PvP, I think they're playing World of Warcraft. Those who want to PvP, they can actually do this. A pre-made champion, you have to level thing up. A pre-made, go have at it, have fun. I thought, not for me, for other people too. Kind of funny. I think they would come around and now do an MMO, but interesting. All right, next up, we're going to have our main story quest. All right, we are now at our main story quest. And as you heard earlier during the daily, Solomon, not Solomon, so Jill mentioned, okay, that dungeon, the Burning Crew. First up, time for our Trinity Bro opinions, okay? Anyways, Dungeon Finders. Burning Crusade is an old game. Well, at least it was when it first came out number of years ago. And it's not considered to be, it didn't have Dungeon Finders. And so it was asked, I think it might have been one of the panels, I thought, during the BlizzCon, but they're not going to have it. Not going to be there. And from a massively OP article, Blizzard's Brian Birmingham said, "We don't feel like it would be important to include the group finder, especially not like the dungeon finder that with the auto teleport. We feel like that is antithetical to classic, even though it's really cool to have that option in modern WoW. We want to make sure there's a distinction between those offerings where if you want that social friction, you can find that in classic. We definitely want to keep the broad, authentic character of classic while still making targeted fixes for things that are real problems." So I started thinking about the fact that, wait a minute, what? Okay, I'm not sure if looking for raid, dungeon finders is a good or bad thing. It's what I think separates the community. When you're playing Dark Age of Camelot back in the day, or even early classic WoW, you had to make groups. You had to find raids, which is kind of if you're a solo person or in a small guild, it kind of makes it hard. But the idea is that's the whole point of a community, making a community, finding fellow people on your server who want to do the same thing and trying to group with them. And it built a sense of community, it built a sense of friendships and finding friendships and even changing guilds if you find your guild isn't doing it. Dungeon Finders allows you to jump. Final Fantasy 14 requires you to finish the dungeons for the main story, which you can do by doing LFR, LFQ, LFG, whatever it is, right? And I started thinking, well, this Dungeon Finder may have been the very thing that kind of ruined MMORPGs from being a true MMO anymore. It made it easier to play the game. It made it easier for everyone to play the game, but it kind of took away from things. So I just thought, what the heck? Let's ask this question. I'll toss it off to Sir Jaziel first. What are your thoughts about Dungeon Finders? What has it added or taken away from the MMO experience?
I think it's done both, honestly. For the casual player, having it helps immensely. It does save time, and it's just super convenient. Especially in modern World of Warcraft, where there's just so much out there to do, that everyone's just strong kind of thin, really. Although it's picked up recently with the uptick in subscriptions, but I don't think it's needed at all in Classic or the Burning Crusade or even Wrath of Lich King, honestly. If that ever, well, of course they're going to do Wrath of Lich King. um, I would say in Burning Crusade, for one thing, I remember that there are several dungeons that the dungeons tended to be closer together for one, so travel was easier to get to them. and Burning Crusade, and I just, man, he was right. I miss that back when it mattered, and people mattered. People were real, behind that avatar. There was a real person. People treated each other well. Generally, I will say, because someone's going to say, "Well, I remember a lot of bad people in there." Well, yeah, of course, but generally, uh, running through those dungeons and those raids and even questing during that time period, I've talked about it before. I made friendships that I still have to this day, all these years later, because you were kind of, in a way, forced to, unless you didn't want to do dungeons and raids. Um, you were kind of forced to be social and to seek out players, and you would have a white list of people that, hey, if this person's on, this healer's on, this tank's on, this DPS is on, they're going to be who I want to call. They're going to be the first one I'm going to call on, and if they're not, then we'll get some random, and then hopefully that turns out to be a positive relationship as well. And you also had your blacklist, like I was mentioning earlier, that would be people that you're like, oh. I don't really want to play with that person again for whatever reason. But it really, it was a different game, and I enjoy that part of it. And I respect their moving forward and not including it, for that, because it'll be great to go back to that time and maybe make some new friendships out of it. And um, it does save time, and I got to be honest with that. And being someone that has more time, it's not that big a deal to me. But for my friends that are my age group, especially that have children and spouses and um, you know work, well, for the states that are actually allowed to go back to work, unlike mine, um, it you don't have a whole lot of time. You don't have, back when the game first came out and most of us were still in college or whatever and had a fair bit more time to game. And a lot of the people I play with were even still in high school, believe it or not. Um, and they just naturally had more time than they do now. So, if you feel like that is just not going to work out for you, then there's Modern World of Warcraft. And luckily, they've rolled it all into one package at your $15 or whatever, depending on how many months ahead that you pay for the game. Will include Classic and Burning Crusade and the modern version, Shadowlands. So, if you find that you don't have the time to sit around and look for someone and then have to actually travel to the dungeon, um, then that may not be for you. Luckily, you can go to the modern World of Warcraft and you can go to those Burning Crusade dungeons and do them with LFG and excuse me, and get instantly transported there, and that'll be more your style. So
Yeah, that's a thing. I mean, it's like you did waste time, not waste time, but you spent time looking for a group. You spent
yeah,
time, like just hanging around, waiting for it to happen. And I know when Dungeon Fighters first came out, people were like, "Oh, great, perfect! I don't have to wait so long." But then again, waiting was part of the, I don't know, the bug, the feature. Sabato says, got to say a couple of MMOs where you actually needed to go entrance dungeon, which you wanted to do, or were stuck that could not advance alone. You meet people who were stuck as well, or higher level players who want to help out. That feeling, I never forgot that. And you had
yep,
to interact with them. Sometimes you even made best friends online like that. Hard to imagine that to happen with dungeon finders. It does not matter who they are. Probably not even talk during the whole dungeon, and there's no connection to these players either. Yep. Even
yes,
when you go on and you say that, hey, it's my first time doing this, they might say hi, I'll help you, but no, just run along, we'll do it, okay?
it's
Like,
so easy to kick you out and find some.
yep,
That's why even when it is my first time, I never say it, because I know what's going to happen. They're going to kick me out, and they're just instantly going to get another DPS.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, Solomon, what are your thoughts about Dungeon Finders? Like, should we, I'm not sure. I mean, I know they have them in other games too, but what are your thoughts about them?
Oh man, I don't know. Is it bad I can't even remember? Like I understand how the system works, but it's been so long since I actually played anything with a dungeon in it because Black Desert Online doesn't have dungeons in the game. Well, that being said, I mean there's no teleportation or anything that lets you help find a group. So basically in one of the most hardcore sandbox MMORPGs in the market right now, second to probably only EVE Online maybe. Everything that you do in the game you have to kind of do on your own. You have to use the world chat or looking for group chat and see if you want to group up with people. There's no teleportation in the game. Well, there is, but for all intents and purposes there actually isn't instantaneous teleportation. And so if you want to travel from one end to the other part of the map, you actually have to ride your horse there, and that could take a really long time because why not? I guess. I don't know. I think it's just an overall evolution of the MMORPG genre of it itself. I actually did see a comment earlier that I didn't get to respond to, saying that players just don't want to be hardcore that much anymore, not like they used to. People just don't have time anymore. The MMO golden age or demographic that grew up on that stuff it's just not something that people are willing to do in terms of waiting, as you said earlier. And so I think companies are out there are doing it because they understand the shifting demographic, and so they'll cater towards the demographic that's willing to shell out the money, which are people who are looking for convenience over forming relationships. And
you had mentioned last week, a couple weeks ago, about the fact that people who are younger don't even know what MMORPGs are. They're like, I know some do, but I'm like, what are they? And they're like, they're not the same people anymore. I mean, we who used to play them aren't the same anymore. We have grown up too. We're also impatient because, obviously I was an adult during the time, but some people were actually in, younger or in college. They had all this time, and so they just raid. And now people are like, no, I don't have the time. I want Dungeon Finder. I want to get in and out. I want to play only content and get in and out. Younger people are like, oh, 140 characters for a tweet. I never get in and out of my dungeon.
Right. No, that's actually a really good analogy. So, yeah, I think gone are the well. Okay, let me put it this way: even if there was an MMORPG that went the route of being really hardcore, like on the level of like WoW Classic, actual 2003, 2004. No, I'm not. Or yeah, around that period, it's gonna be a super small niche. It's not gonna be this game that's gonna have everybody talking about it. It's just gonna cater to a very small demographic, unfortunately, in my opinion. And excuse me. And I think the current popularity of certain games is evident of that. The most popular genre right now are battle royale first person shooters, right? And what are those? Those are quick games where you just jump in, get your stuff, kill people, and leave, and vice versa, and you just repeat the process. People just don't have the time to like really invest in their characters anymore, not on the level that we're used to, at least. And so everybody's standards are a bit different. Yeah, either way, I tend to lean on the side of why not, like, give players more options than less options. And I know that comes at a cost because as we talked about earlier, and Serge Aziel said, there's a lot of community building when you don't have those features. But it's like, man, like, do you want to play with less people in community build, or have more people play the game because of its convenience and spend less time waiting? And I don't know what the balance is. I don't think anyone does actually know what the right balance is. it's just one of those things where you have to do a trial and error. But at the end of the day, yeah, I'd say put it in there because it's just like, why not? Unless of course you're Black Desert Online and there's a certain uh look and feel that you're trying to go for. But other than that, like I said, that's just one game of many.
Yep. Well, it's interesting. You made the comment. It's like, balance. Maybe this is the balance. Maybe Dungeon Finders are the balance for those who want to keep playing the game to what it was. Do ahead and join guilds and join groups and do things together. And those who can't, do this. And so maybe it does balance. Svato makes a comment. Seems like MMO games and players are very mixed these days, meaning so many MMOs which are making things pretty basic and simple. Because expect people to like that, fail most of the time, almost always. So games are not the same. Neither are the players. Perhaps MMO genre common ground is missing. Maybe. I guess I like what you said, Solomon. Demographics are changing.
Yeah, and I think exactly right. And I think the popularity of Valheim is evidence of that. It's not really an MMO, but there's still online capabilities like an MMO. And that game is, and one of the reasons why I find that, I'm sorry to say, one of the reasons why I find that game incredibly boring is because how simple it is. There just isn't enough complexity to that game, and I understand the attractiveness of a game like Valheim, but it's just, I mean, you just kind of gather stuff and you build your fort, and it's just like woohoo, like I just don't find the appeal to that. And again, this is coming from somebody who immensely enjoyed the settlement system of Fallout 4. I really want to play those type of games, but it's just, man, it's just, there's this, yeah, I think I just need a little bit more sophistication.
No, that's fair enough. And that's why I still talk about the fact that there's a variety of different games out there. For those who love the Rust, there are people like me who don't like Rust. And so having a different variety of things allows you to do that. You mentioned Eve, being very hardcore. Yeah. I mean, I have forgot that BDO didn't have any dungeons either. They're kind of a more hardcore too. So there's that thing. You get what you want. World of Warcraft, have their numbers up. So they're hitting some buttons right. I want to go back to another comment Sabato made. Also, do you remember when times were he remembers times when he camped outside of Dungeon AFK, just waiting someone to come by. If someone did, you knew that, that player's on the same quest as I, or at least have quests where I need to go as well. And when they saw you, they probably thought the same thing. It opens easy conversation. And it becomes even more special to feel you are not alone in this dark world. And finally, you see the other player who might actually help you. So yeah, well said, Sabato. Okay.
If I could add just
that means
I honestly can't remember which YouTuber it was. It's one of the bigger guys that cover games in the gaming industry, but he mentioned something. It was kind of specifically about World of Warcraft, but it could apply to some other MMOs, especially out of the big four. But he kind of he held his phone up, and he was like, what's stopping from games like World of Warcraft from just being getting rid of all those quests and stuff and just being having a launcher where you go in and you sit in the lobby and you just say, I want to go to this dungeon, or or you go to the pet battle section and you go, I want to pet battle PvP against other players, or things like that, and not even have all this other stuff, because he feels like that's where it's kind of going at this point. That the story's great and all, but really, that's what the game feels like to a lot of people. You get into looking for group or looking for raid or looking for pet battle or whatever. You are automatically linked with people of your own level, or eye level, or whatever leveling system is in the game or armoring system is in the game, to link you with other like leveled characters. You go in there, you don't talk to each other or anything. It's very almost like you could almost add bots in there if it couldn't find other players to play with you. You go, you run your thing, and then you go and you do it again. And so he was like, why don't they just have a lobby where you just go in and it really has in that essence, it's taken the humanity out of the MMO. It's that's great that there's all these other players in the game, but like he was saying, that you don't feel that connection with them anymore. They might as well be a bot, really. Like when you go in the dungeon or raid or whatever, because they're just people that you were just randomly tossed in with to go, run this dungeon or raid because you can't do it solo. And whereas you were making connections before, like Burning Crusade is going to do, thank God, really, and because you had to take note of the people that were good, that you know were knew their class and knew the fights and the mechanics, and you had to take note of the people that weren't so great to play with, or maybe they ninja looted something really special and you're like, hey, I'm not gonna fall for that twice. That kind of stuff did happen. And um it it doesn't feel like, I admit, even World of Warcraft lately, well, for the last several years, really, I see people running around, but there's no connection to them. They don't feel immensely important to me anymore as they
Some
used to.
try. Some try. How often I have someone send me a party request, and
Mhm.
I ignore it. S- I'm guilty of being that person who doesn't accept the quest or during the
Yeah,
party because I'm like, I don't want to know you.
yeah,
Kind
I
of,
get it.
and we're on the same server too. It's different when you're in a dungeon finder, but if you're out in the open world and all of a sudden you're doing the same quest together, and the person accepts you at a party, and you say no because like, yeah, whatever,
See,
And
I always it's
I used to
well,
do
I
I used to
like
talk to
Battle for
them.
Azeroth, like, you would have those special quests that you would pick off the board or whatever to go out and kill some elite, that it was like, there's no way as a clothy I'm gonna be able to take the damage off him. So I would just go and as, I think it was Falto that said that? Yeah. I would go off and sit off to the side safely away from the mob, and I would wait, and then I would see someone else across the way, some warrior or shaman or somebody would come up, and I would see them stop, and you could tell that they're looking at the same
Right.
mob, and I'd send them an invite, or I'd wait for them to invite me, and uh you know so I'm still holding it together, but I get why you wouldn't, but some of us are still doing
Yeah, well,
it.
that's I mean, it's funny. I think I call it unintended consequences. We're like, yes, oh my goodness, Dungeon Finder is great. Now I can jump to the dungeon I want to faster and get a group going to complete it. Because I
Yeah.
don't have to worry about guild being ready or being available. But that also in turn starts pathing yourself toward, I don't need anybody else now anymore. So you're slow to get around it. I don't spend a
Yeah.
comment. Funny enough, Jazio said something that like that. Solomon spoke about BDO. I have 620 hours of playtime in BDO.
Hmm.
Never felt so alone in an MMO. But after a while, I got mindset for it that this is a single player game. Yeah, and that's how MMOs have turned out to something. It's a massive multiplayer online, and yet we're playing it solo. I remember I told a story
Yeah.
before. I remember a guy in Dark Age of Camelot. We remember the story like this person did the 50. The person had a goal to solo the 50 to see if it's possible. And the person did it. It took a while, but did it. And people were like, wow, because you can solo. The game wasn't meant to be a solo game. The game was meant to group up. And I think World of Warcraft was made the same way. It was meant to group up. It was meant to put people together. And now you have these games that are the massive multiplayer online presences, and yet they're solo games. My brother was playing World of Warcraft, Burning Crusade. When I realized that he was playing it, I go, well, why don't you join a group, right? He didn't want to because he didn't want to, the whole thing. Well, let's do it together. And so we started doing it together. We built a guild out of it, and it was like he had finished playing it solo wise, So he hadn't really tried the idea of the multiplayer aspect of it. And he finally did. You know, he also was playing was it Age of Conan? I think it was at the same time. So I think Dungeon Finders can be like you all said. You know, it's a different dynamics, different player base we have nowadays, and I think people are just they're more moving on to doing faster things. But I think the game itself allows you to do the balance. It's us who aren't doing that balance. It's us who aren't making the friendship. Like I said, I get invited to a party back in the day. I would be so ecstatic by a party. I say, hey, how's it going? I would just talk with the person as you know, how what's happening, a thing, you know. Nowadays, I just I just ignore it. Or I accept. We do the quest. Thank you very much. Off you go. Don't even say, hey, how's it going? You know? Oh well. There you go. That was our main story quest today. So now we're gonna go off to our escort quest. So I was trying to figure out what to say today, and Jazio pointed out to me something that was done, I think somewhere on one of the other MMO sites, news sites. It was about companions. Companions. SWTOR has companions. You know, you have them along with you. You slowly get companions. They actually help you out. You know, they're part of your party. You know, part of your passe. So the question is, you know, for companions, do we want them or not? And if yes, do you want companions? What? Just cosmetic decoration, having it there, or do you want it for support? It actually does something for you. It will help you fight the mobs or heal you or whatever it is. So, Solomon, I touched you first. You know, what are your thoughts about companions? I know you used to play SWTOR and you had companions. What are your thoughts on this?
I could do without them. I understand the reasoning behind them, like especially if you play a BioWare game, because it's all about the relationships that you establish in the lore, and that's fun, admittedly, but I don't know. I typically enjoy them more in a single player game like Fallout and you know, Dragon Age and stuff like that. Mass Effect, definitely, you know, where you're limited to like 2 companions and stuff. They have their benefits and advantages, but in an MMO, it just completely changes the dynamic of the game itself. And you know, you might be used to playing the game, and so I'll use Star Wars: The Old Republic as an example since you brought it up. You know, you're allowed to use companions in PvE and do certain things, and maybe even you know, sometimes when you do like a flashpoint, not a flashpoint, but like instanced content that isn't a dungeon, like companions are mandatory pretty much. You know, they help you fill in the role of, say, a tank or a healer and whatnot, where you would need a player, you know, maybe from a group finder or something, as we were talking about earlier. But you can't use them in PvP, and so you kind of have to adjust accordingly as well, you know, and change out rotations maybe, or relearn how to do certain things. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that hard of a jump in my opinion. And I know the Elder Scrolls Online, you know, they're gonna put in companions if they haven't done so already. And Sir Jazio could probably talk to you more about that than I can. And I mean, yeah, I don't feel strongly either way. If there's companions, great. If not, I mean, not that big of a loss. I don't think they're absolutely mandatory to have, especially in an MMORPG. But in other RPGs, yeah, they absolutely do enhance the experience of the game. Like I said, you know, I think Mass Effect is definitely one of those games. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, I could go either way on that one.
No, that's a fair statement because that's the thing about playing a solo game, like you mentioned, Mass Effect, and any Bioware game like that. It's part of the DNA now. You want it, expect it. It also helps you. It also mixes the matches, gives you entertainment, gives you a chance to have a story. You know, the whole role playing thing. You don't necessarily need that in MMO because you're doing the role playing yourself or just the questing. What I thought about was having a companion when it helps me. Like, you know, if I'm a character when I'm playing classic WoW and I'm playing a warrior who gets beat up really bad, doesn't heal himself like a paladin, having a companion that can heal me, that would be a game changer. It'd be great to have that. But you're right. I hadn't thought about the part about the PvP. If you're doing everything with a companion in PvE, and all of a sudden now you're going to play the same character PvP, and you can't have the companion, you're set differently now. You got to change the way you're doing your keys and your key binds and your whole actions. You are dependent upon your companion that's not there now. So, I mean, obviously, everyone will learn and grow from that. It's not a big deal. They'll adapt, right? But anyways, so Jaziel, what about you? And does ESO have companions?
Kind of. Yeah, they do, and World of Warcraft does too. Well, they did during Legion. um, I also would find myself in the middle. I can see both arguments from both sides, and they would both make sense as to, well, here we go again, making it so that the game's more solo friendly and you don't necessarily need to, oh my gosh, I want to complete this quest, or I want to go kill this elite or whatever. Um, but I'll just purchase a companion and from the merchant or trader or whatever, or maybe it's just in something that you constantly have um, purchasing through the shop or whatever. And now again, you don't have that reliance of other human players. You don't have to sit there and go, well, I need to wait till Solomon or Kenneth can get on so that I can have a healer or a tank to help me out with this. I'll just pop this, take my little NPC companion and play the game by myself. And that's really, again, it's defeating the purpose of the game. But then I hear the voices of the people on the other side. Not don't call the doctors, guys. I'm not hearing real voices, but that and even myself, there's a lot of times where I get on late, everyone else has gone to bed or whatever, or I get on early during when people are normally at work or what have you, and it's like I have time right now to go run these little tasks with my character, go kill that elite, or go do something that's a little bit outside of my scale of being able to accomplish by myself. um, but no, I don't have anyone in my social circle, and I don't necessarily want to, again, here's the time sink. I don't want to take the time to sit there and wait. Maybe I'll get lucky. It'll only take 30 seconds for me to find somebody, or maybe I'll be really unlucky and this has happened to me. I end up waiting for the full extent of the time that I have to play the game and end up logging off without ever finding
Mm.
anybody to go do that. So it would be great to have a little bot, that comes with me, and I can go accomplish that goal and get off the game, log off the game, satisfied that I accomplished something for the day in the game. So yeah, I can see it from both sides. I know that I'm trying to remember which one. I think it was Legion. I'm pretty sure it was. There were Uh, I think they would only pop in from time to time. They were not with you they didn't run alongside you constantly. It was like they would just randomly show up as you were fighting something. And sometimes they wouldn't show up, and other times they did. And it was just for a short duration. Um, and I thought that was implemented okay, but I've played other games. Sport Tour was one that you mentioned, where you have that companion with you pretty consistently. I think maybe another implementation of it that would be acceptable would be if they just finally got down and said, "Hey, you know what? There's a whole lot of people that do, for whatever reason, want to play this MMO single player ish, and at times even." and make single player content and only make those assassins or whatever you want to call them that help you out. Maybe it's a healer or tank type or whatever that you can select and help you run through that single player content with that. But when you go into the world where it's massively multiplayer, then it's not available to you. But that would take a lot of work, and I don't know. But
Well, it's funny. Your comments drove a thought process about the previous topic of dungeon finders.
yes,
What if you were to scrap dungeon finders in favor of a companion? In other words, you can run a dungeon you need to do as long as you have a companion with you, like to help you out, say a tank with a healer or healer with a tank. It's like that will maybe allow for the fact that you can do a dungeon you need to get done and still be multiplayer. I don't know. I call it unintended consequences, but I
yeah,
don't know. It's the thought process I had. Companions. I mean, it can be. I think like funny thing is, I was talking about this about MMORPGs, which the last 20 years, like that video that Sabato sent about the what's it, last peon, latest peon, unlucky peon.
oh,
What
the
was his name?
lazy peon.
Lazy peon.
Yeah,
Was that ever since 2017, things are kind of like ugh, MMOs, right? I mean, they're not quite. They're still making money, but they've been adapting. I guess for us who are old timers playing the game, we wanted to see more. That's why a lot of us who've kickstarted some of these games were looking not quite old school directly, but they advertised things that we wanted to see in MMO. I always wanted. I loved the RVR, Dark Age of Camelot. So when Mark Jacobs offered that kind of version of it with his Camelot chain, I jumped. When I heard Ash's Creation, what they wanted to do, I'm like, I jumped. When I heard Crowfall, who has a pedigree from Shadowbane and whatnot, and they had some ideas, I jumped. These are things I want. Now, mind you, I've been waiting for like 5 or 6 years now. It makes you wonder, like your guys's, star citizen ever going to come out type of thing. But and there are people advertising the old school type of games where you had to grind, and look for a group and whatnot. And you're like, yeah, there's a niche games. People want to do that, but companions is one of the things too. I think it can be a good idea and a niche idea. And again, like everything we do, implemented well, they'll come to you. Implemented poorly, it'll just make the game sucking. Because I said Star Wars had those companions, and I liked them. They were with you. They actually did some things for you. They healed you when you were a tank. They did other things also. They drove at times the attention of the mobs toward it. So you can just go ahead and keep doing your work. You lose a companion, you can bring him back. If you die, you gotta restart the instance. So that's why I like companions, but the way they did it in Star Wars. I mean, I'd be interested if they would do that in other games too. Any last comments on this topic, gentlemen? Solomon's awake. I see his eyes moving. All right. All right. That was it for our escort quest. Hope you got to safety. Got some experience points, and I hope you got, the adventure of a lifetime. World events. Well, we'll see. Okay. We do have the ESO expansion in June. Maybe we'll do that one. Okay. We still have New World in August. Assuming they don't delay it again. Maybe we'll do a Diablo 2 release. I'm not sure about that. Or any other stuff. We have nothing quite yet on our radar. I mean, they're there. There's nothing planned yet. So just watch out for us, right? If you do want to join us, we're still somewhat playing World of Warcraft. Or we are playing Valheim. as Solomon mentioned earlier, it is only 10 per server, but it is kind of a fun game. You can do things together. You got to do it together. You can't do some of these alone. You quest together in some of these delves and dungeons. So it's kind of a fun game. But join us there. Our quests are done. The dungeons are cleared, and the loot has been distributed. And all those crafting orders we got have been completed. Now it's time to go AFK. Solomon, where can we find you at?
You could tell him, Dad.
You can find Solomon at Coffee and RPG's YouTube channel. He puts out great content not every day, but great content and it does give you all the bits of news, some of which you heard here today. A nice little bite-sized capsule with him, so always do that with your drink of choice. So Jaziel, about you?
Well, right now I think I'm probably a month away from taking a break from World of Warcraft. Um, it's just kind of a lull right now in content, so I might just cancel my sub until the 9.1 comes out, and pick back up there, because literally right now, as I was talking about doing stuff on the phone for the game, that's pretty much what I've been doing for the last 3 weeks. World of Warcraft is doing the little stuff on the phone that you can do. So yeah, I don't know that that's worth $15 a month, but I am still doing my RITs and ESO. If you catch me fast enough, it's kind of like driving by a one horse town. So for that 20-30 minutes that I'm on there, most of my day has been spent playing Valheim, honestly. I myself am not finding it boring at all, but I could see how someone would not enjoy it.
Right.
Absolutely. There is a lot more than just gathering stuff and building in the game. There's some mobs you got to conquer and what bosses that you got to conquer. They're going to be adding new content. There's skills to level up and stuff, but it is very simplistic and by design, and I enjoy that. So yeah, there. If you need to get a hold of me, just Discord is a pretty good bet. I'm still staying away from all the other social media, pretty much everybody else on Twitch and Facebook I haven't touched in a while. So yeah, hit me up on either here. Twitter's what I meant, not Twitch. I am on Twitch, obviously, or you can catch me on Discord if you need to message me.
Sure. All right. And you can find me here at Kennethan or at Twitter, Kennethan Live, or also the Discord, Gummo Activated. Thank you for being here and enjoying. Thanks for everybody who has been discussing with us. Thank you, Salvato, for your comments. Last thing I want to say, he made a comment that was pretty good. We'll end the show with this one. I've noticed that many comments on new MMOs, people are lowering their expectations for sure, which might actually be a good thing in a depressive way. Yep.
Yeah.
You're right. If you lower your expectations, then when they do something, you're not so shattered. So we'll leave it at that. As we always do, we want it. We We always look for the game to be a good game. How they do it, the content, the lore, the mechanics, the game. That always drives it out. Other stuff we can forgive. But if you don't have good mechanics and a good lore and a good, it's not going to work. Okay. So, anyways, that's it for this week. We'll see you next week. Thanks everybody, and God bless you.